Okay, on the line right now, congressional candidate Richard Hanna this morning. Good morning, Richard.
Hey, how are you?
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
We wanted to have, it's our first time getting you on, I think, for quite some time. And, of course, you have, you're in the midst of the big campaign.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it's a little over 4 months away, and it's still heated up quite a bit.
Now, you were, it was a very close finish in the last election.
Yeah, it was the closest race against an incumbent in the United States. We lost by roughly 2%.
And the Republican Party has endorsed you to go forward again against Mike Arcuri. And, tell me now, have you guys done polling? The word is that I'm getting is you've done polling, and you guys are ahead by some 10 to 15 points. Is that true?
We have not done any polling in quite a while, but all the anecdotal evidence that's out there suggests that this is going to be a much more competitive race than it was. And I don't really know if we're ahead or behind. I think that like I said, it's 4 months or more to the election, and that's a lot of time, and things can change. But certainly the national mood against some of the policies that Mr. Arcuri has so vehemently supported, the stimulus, the deficits, all of that. I think people see that for the danger that it holds.
And if elected, what do you change? I mean, what will be different? How will a Congressman Hanna be different than a Congressman Arcuri for this area?
I think you need to recognize that you cannot mortgage your children's future. We've spent our parents' money, we've spent our money, and now we're spending our children's future. The unemployment is 10, arguably 17, 18%. I think you need to focus on the private economy. That's where real value and the real opportunity has been created in this country. People like you and me who've owned businesses, and I've had over 450 employees, have done well in my life, started with nothing. That's how this country was built, by private enterprise. That's where the jobs come from. That's where the growth comes from. And frankly, the government exists to support all of that. It isn't the other way around. Government solutions are temporary at best, but in the long run, we need to support business. And if you live in upstate New York, it's starkly obvious that we've destroyed people's ability to thrive here. People are leaving in droves. We've lost 1.5 million citizens. And there are people who simply gave up, who said, New York's not going to turn itself around and I'm going to go.
What do you think of when the congressman voted against health care? I believe that's the way you would have voted.
That's correct. I was out there early saying that this plan was too expensive and untenable. Well, he voted for the House bill. He had we announced, and he voted against the Senate bill, which is arguably less liberal. So I'm not sure if he voted against it because it didn't go far enough, which he said, or went too far. But clearly it was on his part, it's a deathbed conversion. It's about him trying to keep his job. He said he saw the polls changed, so he voted against it. That's the antithesis of leadership. That's exactly what we don't need.
So you believe that Arcuri voted that way to get reelected?
Oh, there's no doubt in anybody's mind who watches the process. It's embarrassing to see.
But don't you think he abandoned his base? I mean, what do you say to people that talk about that? Because it does seem like he has angered Washington by not voting for this.
I don't know. I do know that sometimes when they want to protect somebody, they'll tell them to vote the way that they think they need to save their job.
Yeah.
So I can't speak to that because I don't know the inner workings of him, his offices, and his relationship with Nancy Pelosi or anything. I do know that it is for cap and trade. He voted for it numerous times in committee, and then as soon as there were enough votes to pass, he voted against it. He was one of the last couple to vote. So, there's a lot of hypocrisy there. There's a lot of maneuvering. There's everything but principled leadership.
And as you know, I mean, you're a businessman here. We do struggle here. This area seems to be, and it does seem to be getting worse. How do you, do you have a plan? What would that be on how you would be able to reinvent this area and turn it back into a thriving area? Well,
one of the things that's interesting about this community that we don't talk nearly enough about is the fact that It has one of the highest concentrations of universities and colleges in the entire United States. There's over 20 in this district alone. Yet those people, those young minds and intelligent, energetic people who want to get out and take advantage of their educations, they can't stay in New York State. One thing we need to do is recognize that we have this enormous asset and try to harness that. But you can't do it in an environment that's so punitive. I mean, look at the state budget, look at New York State, and look at your local communities. People are voting with their feet. And to answer your question, though, all the things that we've done to undo this economy, all the things that we've done to wreck what used to be a prosperous and upstate New York with opportunity, are the things we need to undo. We need to recognize that we don't live in a vacuum. We live in a competitive world. There are 49 other states, and almost all of them are more competitive than we are. New York State's going to have to do some extremely painful things to turn itself around, and the sooner it starts, the less time it'll take to create an environment where our young people want to stay here. I have a lot of friends who've watched their families leave the area simply because they, as much as we all love it, and I love upstate New York, I want to stay here.
Yeah.
If you can't make a living, you can't make a living.
Hey, has the Observer Dispatch been unfair to you in this in this situation with the Independence Party?
Oh, absolutely. Not that they're wrong about the Independence Party and the kind of, or any party and the kind of mercurial nature of it all. But they've never, they said that somehow the contribution I made affected the endorsement. What they failed to acknowledge, which is so obvious, is that we were already endorsed.
Right.
And that Mr. Arcuri's donated to the same party. And you're right, he abandoned, betrayed his base in the Democratic Party. And I understand that the Working Families Party that was so supportive of him did not endorse anyone. So he'd love to have the independence endorsement. But what's independent about a guy who's 98% Nancy Pelosi his first time? And I have nothing against her, but I do have something against somebody who's lockstep for anything. And then this time slightly less, still in the 90s. So there's nothing independent about the guy. Why would he get the endorsement?
Now, the DA's office is investigating the finances of the Independence Party.
That's right, but they're not investigating us. Right. We made a legal contribution.
That's what I would like, if you could, just explain, because it does make it look like the investigation is about you.
And that's the unfair part about it. Why the office of the DA would call up the OD and volunteer information on a case. I mean, what it shows me is that Mr. Arcuri knows that he can lose this election, and this is one way they have of making an issue out of something that's a non-issue. I've donated to many parties in my life, including the Democratic Party years ago, and I donated to the Conservative and Republican parties. I'm happy to do it. It's my money. It's my right to do that, and I've also donated many dollars to many candidates. It's embarrassing to watch something like this play out because there's no truth in any piece of it. I have no knowledge of what they did with the money I gave them. I'd hoped it would go for advertising, but apparently I don't know.
And apparently that is not, you can't use a third party to advertise. You can't donate to it. Is that correct? That
is right, yeah. And that's where we made the contribution for that purpose. Found out that we couldn't, so I said, fine, leave it alone. These parties require money to operate and to run, and they all are in the business of fundraising. I've had many contributions to my own campaign, which I'm grateful for. Money is a big part of the problem. It's also something everybody desperately needs.
Do you see this as something that Scott McNamara, the DA, has done to tarnish your image, or is he simply doing is he just doing his job?
I don't know the answer to that. I do know that Mr. Arcuri worked for him in his last campaign, and I don't pretend to know the inner workings, but it does look, to a lot of people who I've spoken to, doesn't look very good for them. But, what it shows me, and I can't speak to that really directly, what it does show me is that they know they can lose, that this campaign is, because of our close race last